Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. McGuire. Today, my special guest is Andres. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dr. McGuire?
Good. The topic today is reading and reading comprehension. This is so important to me for many reasons, and I'm so glad we connected, and thank you very much. So, you are the founder of MKE
hmm
Learning, right?
Yep.
And we'll get into that in a minute. But let's talk about reading comprehension in general. Where are we today, do you think, as a whole?
Yeah.
Compared to before years ago.
Yeah. It's unfortunately the numbers aren't looking great. Um, Specifically, so I'm here in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has historically had some of the worst reading scores in the country. In 2024, just earlier this year, even the National Assessment of Educational Progress released their data for the assessments that took place in 2024, and Milwaukee Public Schools was the second lowest ranked in the country, with 73% of fourth graders reading below a basic level, um, and about 50% of eighth graders reading below a basic level. Just
Okay,
here
so
in Milwaukee.
I'm sure those numbers are comparable to other parts of the country, right? No doubt.
Mhm.
But why do you think that is?
So one of the big reasons, and this slide started to happen right around pandemic time. A lot of reading scores have started to decline since 2019,
Hmm.
and we're seeing that especially students that are in like early elementary school going kind of towards middle school, they kind of took the biggest hit because they were right around that age where reading is at like the most crucial step in learning. And so because, we started to go remote and, just schooling was just kind of so chaotic during that time, we saw a big, big, big decline in reading, and it just hasn't really gotten any better since. Um, Even nationwide, 40% of fourth graders were reading below a basic level, and about a third of eighth graders were reading below a basic level nationwide. Based on that NAEP data, and they tested about 230,000 students in 26 different cities.
Okay, so we get that, right? We're on the same page, and even parents know it, school districts know it, everybody knows it. Do you think, and we'll move on after this, that the pandemic was a culprit to this?
Yeah, I mean, it really had to do a lot with that, like remote learning.
Yeah.
It really hurt, um, specifically those students where, they're now probably in middle school. Those are the students that were kind of hurt the most 6 years ago, 5 years ago,
Hmm.
with remote learning, um, where they just weren't able to get the kind of attention that they needed at that age.
Right. And I know you mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted you to expand on it as you did.
Mhm.
So, but what about the technology now, right? And the phones, that has to be a play.
Yeah, I agree. There's we see a lot of students, with their iPad all the time, or on the phone all the time, or just in front of any screen at all times, and not a lot of reading is being done. We're seeing a lot of like audiobooks or just videos, right? They want everything kind of told to them or read to them. And yeah, that's something that in this new generation we have to try and kind of find a way, some sort of happy medium. We can't, technology is a great advancement, and the way it's been going is, there's still so much more to come. But there has to be some sort of medium between, it can't all be technology. There has to be some work done, um, on the student's part, on the parents' part, to make sure that we're we're not seeing scores like this across the country.
And the parents are getting younger, I guess you would say, and they're more technology
That's
savvy.
true, yeah.
All right, so let's transition into you. Tell me about your organization and how you can help folks.
Yeah, so I'm primarily focusing on that reading intervention piece, working on reading fluency and comprehension. And what I really do is just work on kind of breaking everything down to the simplest form, and then expanding on that and kind of just building on that. So like for fluency, for example, we'll start with letter sound recognition. That's going to be the main kind of begin or like first building block for that. And as we get through that, right, we get into then whole word practice, decoding practice, working on speed, working on sentences, stories, right? And as the student kind of starts showing more proficiency at each level, right, we're able to scaffold into more complex things and get them closer to grade level.
Mhm.
And so it's it's very phonics based. There's a big focus on orthographic processing, right? The way that our brain creates mental images for the sounds and the letters within words. Um, a lot of air writing, which kind of helps to create and
Mhm.
reinforce a lot of those patterns that we're seeing, so that when a student encounters them in any text, they're able to say, "Oh yeah, this does that," and then as that gets faster, that process becomes more automatic in their brain, and they're able to then just kind of read through a any form of text a lot more fluently than they would before.
Okay. What's the best way to assess a student or even an adult to really to understand where they're coming from and what their needs are?
So there are different assessments that are geared specifically towards this, whether it's like a word attack assessment where we put either real or like non-words in front of them, and just seeing what their answer is and what their response is, and that can give us an idea of, okay, these are the rules or like the expectancies that they don't know, and so that's a really good starting point for us. Um, there's reading fluency assessments, there's vocabulary assessments that we can see that can give us some sort of like grade equivalency, and that gives us a good idea of what kind of foundation they have and what
Mhm.
skills they kind of need still to be able to progress and get closer to that grade level and close any gaps that they might have in their reading.
Okay. You told me before, and I don't want to put out all
You're
your.
good.
You have a lot of cool assessments that you shared with me that you use.
Hmm.
We don't have to touch base on those, but I know that you're solid and you have a lot of cool things that you can do. Um, what else should somebody? So sometimes, right? And you agree, me just being the outsider, that parents or students are reluctant to get help, and they know it. They know they need it. So how do you bridge that gap?
Just showing them what the program can really do. So, I do consultations with anybody that's interested. I explain to them how the programs work. I offer free sessions for them to be able to see what that looks like in action, and then for me to be able to also get an idea of where that student is. Not They don't always have testing data, or they might not always opt into getting assessments, but it's really not necessary because with the program itself, I can pretty much within 30 minutes, I can tell what would be a good starting point and where we need to go next.
Okay. So, if there is a parent interested, what should they be prepared? What information do they need ahead of time to get their wheels going when they make contact with you? I know you're going to handle it to be turnkey, but just so they have a mindset as to what to expect.
Um, what I would say that they need is just knowing what the weaknesses that their student is or their child is having in school. Whether that's through maybe something that their teacher said, or if they have that testing data where it shows that they're testing below grade level or they're at risk for a certain like subject area. That's really all I need to be able to say, oh yeah, this is going to work for them. And honestly, the programs work for any student of any grade, any age. I've worked with students that are pre-K, and to just kind of give them like a boost
Hmm.
for what they're going to learn in school. And I've worked with people in their mid 30s who
Wow.
came to me and said,
Wow.
hey, I'm having trouble, at work, like really understanding what they're asking of me. I need, what can I do to kind of get better with that. And it's really the same process, but we every lesson, every lesson plan is tailored specifically for that person, for that
Mhm.
student. So no lesson plan is ever going to be the same. I don't follow like this week is this week is that, right? I don't follow like a set plan. I follow everything based on what the student is giving me.
Okay. That's what I wanted to ask you. So as you get older, right, the comprehension, does that get shorter? If that even makes right? I
How,
said
yeah.
that.
Shorter, how so?
Well, so in terms of retention, like you said, older folks, I'd say
Mhm.
whatever older means. Do they have more difficulty grasping certain concepts?
So I think sometimes that depends. So the person that I was thinking of, right? He wasn't a native speaker. He spoke like four other languages,
Okay.
and so but he was somebody who was very well spoken. He graduated from university. He had he worked in IT, and the main thing that the reason he came to us was he told us, I'm noticing when I'm at work and like I'm just talking with my coworkers, sometimes like I don't really understand what they're saying, or I don't
Mhm.
get what they're saying, or they might make a joke and I see everybody laugh, but I'm like, well, I don't get it. Or he would get instructions, right? He would read a manual and he wasn't like fully sure, like the directions would kind of get jumbled in his brain, and that's why he came to us. And following those same steps, we were once we kind of introduced the methodology, we're then able to apply that to his actual work material. So he brought in, after a few weeks, he brought in his work manual, and we broke it down. Right, it's like, all right, let's read this section.
Hmm.
Let's see what do you think? What do you picture this is asking you to do? And just breaking it down, little by little. Then he's able to independently do that, so that he doesn't need to come to us to help him do his job. Right, he can then just kind of access all of that
I,
material on his own.
I love that. So is it safe to assume that even one session, this to correct this or to help, you need multiple sessions, right? Let's just be honest.
Yeah, yeah. So, for some examples, two students that I worked with over the summer, one was entering fourth grade, and he was reading at about like a second grade level. So, it's a pretty big gap, but he already had some of those skills in hand, and so we were able to kind of move a little bit quicker. He was able to grasp a lot of these rules a lot quicker, and so we met 3 times a week for 30 minutes each day.
Hmm.
And by the end of, we met for about 2 months. By the
Hmm.
end of those 2 months, we were getting close to starting fourth grade material, but we just kind of ran out of time,
Hmm.
with the scheduling. But even in just an hour and a half a week for a couple of weeks, he was able to kind of make just a year's gain.
Wow.
And a lot of that is credit to him for sticking with it and really being bought in to the process and putting everything to practice. Um, on the flip side, another student that I worked with over the summer that I'm actually still working with now, even that the school year started, she's starting fifth grade, but was reading and comprehending at a first grade level. Um,
Mm.
and so over the summer, we met for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And even now, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh,
like even now, that like the school year started, we're meeting six days a week, for 2 hours a day, right? So that we can try and keep that repetition, that daily practice going.
2 hours a
Um,
day?
mhm.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
intense.
yeah. So like she comes home from school, like has a break, and then right back to learning some more. And it that's the kind of like attention that this needs, right? It's
Yeah.
not just like, hey, let's meet once a week, or let's like, it's not gonna stick,
Mhm.
especially for cases that are this kind of grave. Um, but not every student is the same, right? So again, like depending on the profile and kind of where they're at, things are gonna be a little bit different for everybody.
Okay, so you work with Spanish speaking folks?
I do too. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm able to kind of implement. I'm able to implement every single part of this program also in Spanish. I'm lucky enough to be
That's
a
awesome.
native Spanish speaker. English is my second language,
Wow.
so I kind of also went through that myself when I started school here. Going through phonics lessons and having kind of like that dual immersion classroom. So I kind of know what that's like, and I know the difficulties that come with that. And I think that experience kind of gives me some really good perspective on what those students need.
Okay. So here's an opportunity to toot your horn, right? The floor is yours. Tell us why that you are the guy to go to in terms of helping families with this reading comprehension piece.
Um, I mean, I all I can say is that I know what I'm doing. I have nearly a decade of experience in this. I've worked with over 1,000 students
Wow.
um, who have ranged from gen ed to the most severe like special education, like nonverbal students, students with autism, students with ADHD, students that have dysgraphia or apraxia. They have so many
What does
different.
that mean?
So dysgraphia is like how the way the brain perceives like letters
Hmm.
is just it doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
Okay.
And so if you're not processing written language the way that you're supposed to, you're not going to be able to read. And so this program really helps with that because of the way that we're able to break things down to the smallest kind of unit of a word, right? Just a single letter, a single sound, and build up from there. Um, so I'm blessed to have all of this knowledge that I can kind of pass on to other students and really help them to be able to access and be able to read and comprehend. I've worked with a lot of students who they'll say like, I hate reading, I hate school, I hate this, and by the end of the program they're like, I can't wait to pick up this book, and this is my favorite book. And that's really like what I'm chasing, right?
Good.
That's what I like to see is those that kind of success, and students just being proud of themselves.
Hmm.
um, that's
So you like
confidence.
attention to detail, I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, confidence goes a long way. Confidence goes a
Sure.
long way with this, and I think a lot of that is also building up the students' confidence, right? Because for so many years they're being told, yeah, you can't read, you need help with
Yeah.
this, right? And
Yep.
them being able to hear themselves and see themselves read well is such a huge boost for them. And once that happens, I mean, it's nonstop. You can't now you won't be able to get them to stop reading.
Yeah. I just want to stress, and you know this, how powerful this is to not correct, but improve on this reading comprehension because everything you just said, it will have an impact for years to come.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's not just for school, right?
Right.
Comprehension comes in it we see it every day, right? In our jobs, our relationships, our friendships, conversations that we have with people. If we're not comprehending what we're hearing or what we're seeing or what we're reading, it's going to be very, very hard to just navigate the world around us.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's better when you start early and you start young. But it's never too late if if even if you're done with school, if you're years removed from education,
Hmm.
um, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anybody can be taught um, to read and comprehend.
One thing I noticed, and we can wrap it up, but one thing I noticed though as I got older is people's vocabulary, right? And I know it's all tied into everything you're saying, but I never really
Hmm.
realized that too much till I don't know, a couple years, whenever. But
Hmm.
right, it's definitely a correlation with one's vocabulary.
Oh, a
Yeah,
1000%. Yeah,
that's
vocabulary is one of the biggest components of comprehension. If you have low vocabulary, we're gonna